Proszę Państwa o zajęcie miejsc.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
Panie profesorze,
Professor, please take your seat.
Szanowni Państwo,
Ladies and gentlemen,
otwieram uroczystość
I declare this ceremony
nadania doktoratu honoris causa
of awarding the honoris causa title to Professor Jacek Klinowski open.
którego bardzo serdecznie witam
I would like to welcome Professor Jacek
w
Klinowski
imieniu
very
państwa, w
cordially
imieniu całej społeczności
on the behalf of
Uniwersytetu
all the
Warszawskiego.
community of the University of Warsaw.
Wybaczcie Państwo, jeśli się w czymkolwiek pomylę.
Ladies and
Proszę o
gentlemen,
wybaczenie, bo z reguły uczynił to pan profesor Marcin Pałys. Przez
Professor
ostatnie 8
Marcin
lat.
Pałys was
Ja
the
po
one
raz pierwszy
who,
będę
for the
miał
past 8
przyjemność
years,
wręczyć panu profesorowi
was awarding the
doctorate
honorary titles.
honoris causa,
And
dyplom
it is the first time that
doktoratu
I've
honoris
had
causa,
such a pleasure.
który
Therefore, this is a
Uniwersytet
special
Warszawski,
moment
Senat
for me.
Uniwersytetu Warszawskiego
The Senate of the
przyznał
University of
panu
Warsaw
profesorowi 24
on the
czerwca
24th of June 2020
2020 roku jednogłośnie
adopted
ze
unanimously
względu na pandemię
a
nie było
resolution
możliwości
on
wręczenia
awarding the title
panu
of
profesorowi
Dr.
tego
honoris causa
doktoratu.
to Professor Jacek
wcześniej.
Klinowski. Unfortunately,
Pani
due to the
profesor,
COVID-19 pandemic, we
serdecznie panu
couldn't
profesorowi
have had
witam
this
dzisiejszej
ceremony
uroczystości.
earlier on.
I chcę powiedzieć,
Professor,
laudacja
welcome.
będzie wygłoszona, że to dla nas wszystkich honor i zaszczyt
It is our
móc pana
great
profesora
honor
gościć w programie
to be
Uniwersytetu
welcoming you
Warszawskiego.
here at the University of Warsaw.
To okazja, żeby
This is
panu
also
podziękować
an
za
opportunity
wszystko
to
co
thank
pan
you
profesor
for everything that
uczynił,
you've
panie
done,
profesorze. Co pan profesor uczynił
for everything that you've done
chemików, nie tylko chemików,
for the chemists, and not only the chemists of the University of Warsaw, as well as the chemists of other Polish universities, for instance, the Jagiellonian University, the Adam Mickiewicz University in Poznań,
naszą wielką dumą,
as well as other universities. It is our great
wielką
pride
nadzieją.
we take in
Bardzo się cieszymy,
listening to
że
you
możemy
and having you
pana
here.
profesora gościć.
We are extremely
I
glad
bardzo
to
się
have you
cieszymy z tego,
today.
że będę
And we are
mógł
very
w
happy
imieniu Uniwersytetu Warszawskiego wręczyć panu
To be
profesorowi
awarding
tę
you the honoris
najwyższą
causa
godność,
title,
jaką
the
uniwersytet
greatest
może
honor
przyznać
that the university, a
osobie
university,
wybitnej, osobie
can
wielkiej,
grant
osobie
to a grand
współpracującej z
person,
Uniwersytetem Warszawskim,
an
osobie
outstanding
poszukującej
researcher
prawdy, dążącej do
seeking
prawdy,
the truth,
osobie
aiming at the
wysoce
truth,
moralnej i
of
wysoce
great morality
etycznej.
and
I jak
ethics.
przeczytałem i jak wiem od moich kolegów, pan profesor wszystkie
As
te
I've
cechy
read and
sobą
heard,
reprezentuje.
you are characterized by all these
dziękując,
virtues.
że pan dzisiaj nas odwiedza,
By the same token, I would like to say that I would like to express my deepest gratitude for you being here today. I would like to congratulate you.
przeprowadzimy w obecności
This particular
naszych
ceremony
znakomitych kolegów i
will be
koleżanek,
held in
którzy
the presence of
przybyli
our
nie tylko z Uniwersytetu Warszawskiego, ale
outstanding
przybyli
colleagues
także
from the
z
University of
Polski,
Warsaw and
żeby
other
panu
Polish
profesorowi
universities.
oddać honor
They came here
i
today
razem ze
to
mną
pay respect
asystować przy wręczeniu
and to share this moment
dyplomu
with us
doktoratu honoris causa. Chciałem
of awarding the
zatem
title of Doctor
w
honoris
imieniu
causa to you.
własnym, ale także
At the
pana
same
profesora
time, I would like to,
powitać
on my behalf and on
dzisiejszych
behalf of
gości
my
i
colleagues,
uczestników
to welcome
uroczystości.
you, Professor, and to welcome all the
Zacznę może w
guests.
sposób najprostszy i powitam pana
First of all,
profesora Krzysztofa Woźniaka
I would like to welcome
z
Professor
Wydziału Chemii
Krzysztof
Uniwersytetu
Woźniak from the
Warszawskiego,
Department of
promotora.
Chemistry of
Witam
the
bardzo
University of
serdecznie
Warsaw, the
pana
supervisor. I would
profesora
like to welcome
Andrzeja Kudelskiego,
Professor
dekana
Andrzej
Wydziału
Kudelski, the
Chemii.
Dean of the Department of
Witam
Chemistry. I would like to
recenzentów.
welcome the
W
reviewers,
osobach pana profesora
Professor
Jerzego Datkę z
Jerzy
Uniwersytetu
Datka
Jagiellońskiego.
from the Jagiellonian
Witam
University.
bardzo serdecznie
And I would
pana
like to
profesora
welcome
Marka
Professor Marek
Potrzebowskiego, dyrektora
Potrzebowski
Centrum Badań Molekularnych
from
i
Molecular
Makromolekularnych Polskiej
Research
Akademii Nauk.
Center of the
Witam
Polish
serdecznie
Academy of
panią
Sciences.
profesor
I would like to
Marię
welcome
Ziółek z Uniwersytetu
Professor Maria
Adama
Ziółek
Mickiewicza w
from the
Poznaniu,
Adam Mickiewicz University in
która
Poznań,
ogląda naszą uroczystość
who has joined us online.
Witamy panią profesor.
Welcome.
Witam pana,
I would like to welcome
panią profesor Ewę
Professor Ewa
Szczepańską-Sadowską,
Szczepańska-Sadowska,
Akademii Nauk.
the President of the Polish
Witam
Academy of
pana
Sciences. I would like to welcome Mr. Kolm Magwer, the Director of British Council in Poland. I would like to cordially welcome Dr. Jakub Kop, from the Ministry of Education. I would like to welcome our friend, Rector Zygmunt Gaciąg from the Warsaw University of Medical Sciences, Professor Barbara Marcinkowska, the Rector of the Special Pedagogy Academy, the Maria Grzegorzewska Special Pedagogy Academy. I would like to welcome Rector of the Polish Fire Brigade Academy. I would like to welcome Professor Violetta Rogula-Kozłowska, the Vice Rector of the Fire Brigade Academy. I would like to welcome Professor Barbara Wadzik, the Rector of Jan Kochanowski University in Kielce. I would like to welcome very cordially Professor Roman Sobiecki, the Vice Rector of the SGH school here in Warsaw. I would like to welcome the Rector of the Jagiellonian University and Professor Joanna Kolmas, the Dean of Pharmacy of the Warsaw University of Medical Sciences. I would like to welcome all our friends, the representatives of other universities, the rectors and ex-rectors of the University of Warsaw, Professor Piotr Węglojski, Professor Marcin Pałys.
Ten proces nadania panu profesorowi doktoratu honoris causa się rozpoczął.
Thanks to you, the process of awarding the honoris causa title was initiated. I would like to welcome the members of the Senate, the Council of the Department of Chemistry, as well as PhD students, and the employees and friends of the University of Warsaw. I would like to welcome everyone, individually and jointly, very cordially, and at the same time, thank you so much for being here during this amazing and a beautiful moment for the University of Warsaw, as well as, I do hope so, the professor. Ladies and gentlemen, I also would like to welcome everyone who has joined this meeting online.
Poproszę teraz o wygłoszenie laudacji
Now I would like
profesora
to
Krzysztofa Woźniaka,
ask Professor Krzysztof Woźniak, the supervisor,
doktoratu pana profesora.
to
Bardzo
give
proszę.
laudatio.
Your Magnificence, the esteemed members of the Warsaw University Senate, esteemed representatives of other universities, dear guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor for me to introduce and to present the laudation of Professor Jacek Klinowski on the occasion of awarding him with the honoris causa title of the University of Warsaw. Professor Jacek Klinowski was born on the 11th of October 1943 in Krakow. That is where he spent his childhood and youth. In 1956, he graduated from the Władysław Jagiełło Elementary School and began his education at the Bartłomiej Nowodworski Secondary School No. 1 in Krakow. In May 1960, he graduated, he passed his final exams, and I'm providing you with this information at the request of our of a professor here. He received a C for all subjects except for his behavior grade. From 1960 to 1965, he studied chemistry and mathematics at the Jagiellonian University. Under the supervision of Professor Maciej Leszko, he wrote his master thesis there. In April 1968, Jacek Klinowski, MA, received his PhD in chemical sciences at the Jagiellonian University on the basis of his distinguished dissertation titled Selected Physiochemical Properties of Liquid Ion Exchanges. Soon afterwards, he took up a post, first at the University in Aberdeen in Scotland, and then at Imperial College in London. In 1973, he received a second doctorate there on the basis of the thesis Theoretical and Experimental Studies of Crystalline Ion Exchanges. Then he started working at the Department of Chemistry at the University of Cambridge, where he received a master's degree in 1988. It was a title of Masters of Arts. Between 1980 and 2000, Dr. Jacek Klinowski went through all levels of his research career at Cambridge, starting from Senior Research Associate through Assistant Director of Research, Reader, and then in 2000 he was awarded the title of Doctor of Science. It was granted to him on the basis of his scientific achievement, which included over 250 publications at that time. Between 1998 and 2000, he was also the official fellow and director of studies in chemistry at Peterhouse. This is the oldest college in Cambridge. From 2000 to 2011, Professor Jacek Klinowski was employed as professor of chemical physics. And at the same time, he was a professorial fellow at Peterhouse. In 1998, Professor was awarded the title of professor by the President of the Republic of Poland. Since 2011, Professor Jacek Klinowski has been a distinguished professor at the University of Cambridge. And since 2012, he has been honorary professor at the Jagiellonian University. From 1996 to 2011, Professor Jacek Klinowski was also a visiting professor at Adam Mickiewicz University in Poznań, at the University of Aveiro in Portugal, and at the University of Cagliari in Italy. An important stage in the scientific work of Professor Jacek Klinowski was his position at the Imperial College in London, where he worked under the supervision of Professor Richard Barrer. He created the modern chemistry of zeolites. Zeolites are crystalline microporous aluminosilicates synthesized in megaton quantities. They function as ion exchangers, sorbents, key catalysts, particularly in the refining industry. 8 out of 9 catalytic processes in refineries are actually catalyzed precisely by zeolites. Professor Klinowski is one of the pioneers of the method of investigating zeolite catalysts using a new, for those times, method of nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy with magic angle sample rotation. That is called MAS and NMR. This method has found widespread use in the study of solids. Almost all contemporary publications on zeolite chemistry, and we have to say that there are several thousand such papers annually, contain the results of MAS and NMR studies. Professor Klinowski is a pioneer in the application of the NMR technique in solids in the study of phase transitions and the three-dimensional structure of solids, theory of cross-polarization, applications of the inverse cross-polarization, double rotation, nutation of quadruple nuclei, applications of proton NMR in solids, or quantitative analysis of the of spectra that are really difficult to interpret. Professor Klinowski became famous for his NMR experiments, allowing in situ tracking of individual steps of zeolite catalyzed methanol conversion to a mixture of hydrocarbons present in fuels. These works, published among others in Nature in JACS, make it possible to follow and understand the individual stages of the conversion process, the nature and cause within the crystal matrix of the catalyst. Numerous works of Professor Klinowski also revolved around the synthesis and characterization of zeolite molecular sieves with different pore sizes, used for the separation of molecules of different size and for the catalytic cracking of heavier hydrocarbon fractions. In his work, Professor Klinowski demonstrated the possibility of optimizing both the catalyst and the conversion process itself. He obtained sieves with the intended pore size necessary for specific applications, and he studied the structure of many natural and artificial silicates. So, Professor Klinowski also carried out pioneering work on the consequences of introducing into the crystalline network of aluminum silicates ions disrupting the structure and modifying their properties. Cations such elements as gallium, vanadium, and titanium, as well as work devoted to the explanation of the mechanism of channel formation in such systems. Apart from zeolites, Professor Klinowski studied various minerals, carbon, especially its new allotropic variants such as fullerenes, wood and ceramic materials, biological and other materials. Professor Klinowski's work is interdisciplinary. For example, NMR studies of mineralized brain tissue from Alzheimer's disease patients have shown for the first time the presence of aluminum in the human nervous system. It should be mentioned that Professor Klinowski undertook the first spectroscopic studies of inorganic pathological deposits in living organisms, as well as studies of toxic radicals generated by aluminosilicates. Research performed by Professor Klinowski also concerned fullerenes and their complexes, the structure of graphite oxide used as an electrode in lithium batteries and in membranes, as well as composite materials. Especially after the Nobel Prize for Graphene in 2010, these works were cited thousands of times in the literature. It is also worth mentioning that Professor Klinowski's work on the synthesis and characterization of novel coordination links, so-called MOFs, metal organic coordination frameworks, important for the gas storage applications. Their properties, photoluminescent, magnetic, optical, catalytic, and photochromic properties. There were a few works published on that subject. They were cited, each of those were cited at least 500 times. Professor Klinowski is an undisputed world authority in the field of solid-phase nuclear magnetic resonance. The list of his publications includes 624 items, and these works have a huge impact on the scientific community. Several of those publications have appeared in the world's most prestigious journals, such as Nature, Science, or Lancet. 54 publications of Professor Klinowski have achieved citations greater than 100, and the best-cited works have about in Google Scholar, they have about 3,500 and 1,650 citations. The total number of citations of his works is over 23,000, while the so-called Hirsch index has reached an impressive value of 70. This is one of the highest ever achieved by a Polish scientist. Professor Klinowski is also a co-author, together with Professor Jacek Klinowski, of 2 monographs on NMR spectroscopy, and he's also an editor of 3 other book publications. The position of Professor Klinowski among scientists dealing with MAS NMR spectroscopy is evidenced by the fact that for 20 years, until the year of 2011, he was the editor-in-chief of the scientific journal Solid-State Nuclear Magnetic Resonance. Another object of Professor Klinowski's interest is mathematics. He studied mathematics for years ago at the Jagiellonian University at the same time as chemistry. He published 23 papers in applied mathematics. They were devoted, among others, to such issues as global minimization, minimal surfaces in physics and chemistry, and in pure mathematics, works concerning number theory, Riemann-Zeta function, chain fractions. One of the most interesting works in this area is his work allowing enumeration. So it makes it possible to use the tiling theory for all hypothetically possible types of structures for 1, 2, and n component systems. This work has led to the discovery of many new types of structures, and it elegantly summarizes all available knowledge on possible crystal structures. As a consequence of this work and enumeration of all hypothetical catalytic structures of molecular sieves is given. The obtained structures can be verified from the point of view of their chemical and structural sense, especially those having large free spaces, in which important reactions can be performed with the help of catalytically active functional groups. The work of Professor Klinowski has contributed to the synthesis of many important structures predicted by these theoretical considerations. Many detailed problems in science, life sciences, technology, economics, electronics, logistics require finding the global minimum of functions of many variables. The so-called global minimization is one of the most universal research problems in the modern world. At the same time, it is one of the most complex problems due to the fact that it is necessary to find a global minimum in the presence of a large number of ubiquitous local minima. In this field, Professor Klinowski also made his mark by publishing papers devoted to a new global minimization algorithm called taboo search. In his subsequent works, Professor Klinowski showed that the application of taboo search leads to a global minimum. He introduced a practical method of global optimization based on the above formalism. These methods are now widely used in predicting macromolecular structures, in studying mechanisms of neurodegenerative diseases, such as Alzheimer's disease or mad cow disease. Another extremely interesting paper is devoted to the application of the Monte Carlo method in the study of the spread of HIV and AIDS in Africa. About 20 years ago, it also turned out that William Shakespeare had a theater in Gdańsk, although he never visited Poland during his lifetime. Therefore, a foundation was established to rebuild the theater. Its patrons were Charles, Prince of Wales, and Andrzej Wajda, and the theater opened in 2015. Jacek Klinowski is a member of the Board of Trustees of the charity British Friends of the Gdańsk Theatre, whose task was to support that foundation. Among Professor Klinowski's non-scientific interests, it is worth mentioning his interest in feature films, which was demonstrated by his co-authorship of a multi-volume book that was first published in the United States as Cinema, the Magic Vehicle, and then it was translated into Polish. Professor Klinowski has been instrumental in the training of faculty staff. He has promoted 25 PhDs, 8 of whom have already become professors. Several others are or have been rectors and vice-rectors of their universities around the world. Professor Klinowski's ties with Poland have always been and still are very strong. For 30 years, he has been a foreign member of the Polish Academy of Learning, an honorary member of the Polish Chemical Society and the Polish Zeolite Society. For many years, being a professor at the University of Cambridge, he gave lectures on NMR spectroscopy for PhD students of the Faculty of Chemistry at the Jagiellonian University. He was also a visiting professor at Adam Mickiewicz University in Poznań. Young researchers from the Jagiellonian University, as well as from other Polish universities, including our own University of Warsaw, had scientific internships in Cambridge under the guidance of Professor Klinowski. They participated in joint research programs. Of the 624 papers authored by Professor Klinowski, several dozens have Polish colleagues as co-authors. It is worth noting that for the long years that Professor Klinowski spent in the Department of Chemistry at the University of Cambridge, he was the best single Polish ambassador in that department. Someone who was the department that is considered to be, by many, to be the best chemistry department in the world. Belonging to the scientific forefront of the Department of Chemistry at the University of Cambridge and known for his excellent lectures, Jacek astonishes with the importance of his achievements, with the versatility of interest and interdisciplinarity of research, being an excellent example of the creative potential of a Polish scientist. I would like to emphasize very strongly the extraordinary kindness and hospitality of Professor Jacek Klinowski and his wife Margaret, who for many difficult years have selflessly supported numerous young and experienced researchers from Poland. Through their house in Cambridge and in London, many people appeared, many people visited their house for those years. Margaret Klinowski served for many years on the board of the Cambridge and Oxford hospitality schemes. Those programs enable hundreds or maybe even thousands of young people from Poland to undertake academic internships at these prestigious universities. The above presented outstanding scientific achievements in the life path of Professor Jacek Klinowski, a Renaissance man, a world-renowned scientist with world-renowned achievements, long-standing ambassador of Polish science and Poland worldwide, as well as the scientific world in Poland, a scientist who has left his positive mark in so many fields of science, a long-standing friend of Polish scientists. All of this fully justifies awarding Professor Klinowski the title of Doctor honoris causa of the University of Warsaw. As Professor Marek Potrzebowski wrote in his review, I quote, "Among the numerous academics practicing their profession with passion and commitment, only a few belong to the group of outstanding scientists, great creators of new ideas. In this elite group of outstanding is undoubtedly Jacek Klinowski. He is a man of many talents, enormous diligence. He is gifted with extraordinary scientific intuition. We fully share this opinion. On the occasion of awarding you, Jacek, with the title of Doctor honoris causa of the University of Warsaw, we congratulate you on your fantastic scientific achievement in so many different fields of science. And we wish you health and further success, both in scientific and non-scientific activities. Thank you very much.
Panie profesorze, za
Thank you so much,
tę
Professor,
piękną laudację,
for this wonderful
ale
laudation.
też postać
I would like to
doktora honoris
express
causa
my
jest
gratitude
piękna i
for that.
Proszę teraz
And also,
pana
I would
dziekana
like to thank
przedstawienia
Professor himself. Now it is time for the deans. Please, Professor, the floor is yours. Dear Rector, ladies and gentlemen, dear Professor Klinowski, distinguished guests, it is my great honor, speaking on the behalf of the community of the Department of Chemistry of the University of Warsaw, to say a couple of words during this magnificent ceremony of honoring Professor Jacek Klinowski with an honorary title of honoris causa. We've just heard the laudatio of Professor Krzysztof Woźniak, the supervisor in the process of awarding Professor Jacek Klinowski the honoris causa title. And therefore, we've heard what Professor Jacek Klinowski has done in his life. Actually, I know Professor Woźniak, and I knew that he would be very diligent in portraying Professor Jacek Klinowski. Therefore, I won't delve into the details of what we've actually just heard. I will be sweet and short. I won't delve into the details, and I will just give you the gist of the matter. As we've just heard so many kind words and so many details of Professor's life. And therefore, I would like to mention the research of Professor Jacek Klinowski on his graphite oxide and NMR process. Actually, there were two distinguished, outstanding works of Professor Jacek Klinowski. In fact, one of these works was cited as many times as 2,600, and another one, 1,200. These are original works, not review articles. In fact, Professor Woźniak cited Google Scholar. I checked the number of citations in a corpus, and therefore the number of citations in Scopus is smaller than the one in Google Scholar. It is also worth mentioning that as many as 50 works of Professor Jacek Klinowski was cited more than 100 times. In total, this number is above 22,000 citations. The career of Professor Klinowski is exceptional and has always been related to Great Britain. At the same time, Professor Jacek Klinowski has always been bound to Poland. As Professor Woźniak said, Professor Klinowski has been a member of the Polish Chemistry Association, the Polish Skill Association, and Polish Zeolite Association. There were many Polish young scientists, including the ones of the University of Warsaw, who visited Professor Klinowski at Cambridge University. They had joint projects. And in fact, these projects resulted in shared publications with Polish scientists. Many researchers conducted a study visit at the Cambridge University, and for sure these study visits translated into great achievements later on for all these young scientists. Professor Jacek Klinowski had an enormous impact on Polish science, and for that, on behalf of the community of chemists in Poland, I would like to thank you so much for doing so. The honoris causa title is considered the most important and the most prestigious one that a university can give, honoring exceptional scientists. At the same time, I would like to thank the University of Warsaw for awarding the honoris causa title to Professor Jacek Klinowski. I am also deeply convinced that this title is being awarded to an outstanding researcher. At the same time, I would like to thank you for your attention. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Professor.
Dziękuję bardzo, panie dziekanie. Teraz poproszę pana profesora Woźniaka,
Now I would like
promotora,
to
o
ask Professor
czytanie
Woźniak
treści dyplomu.
to read the diploma content.
Szanowni Państwo,
Ladies and
treść
gentlemen,
dyplomu.
here it goes.
Quod felix Faustum fortunatumque sit, summis auspiciis, serenissime Republice Polonorum, nos Aloysius Nowak, scientiarum economicarum doctor habilitatus, in facultate artis ordinandi et moderandi professor, hoc tempore rector magnificus. Andreas Kudelski, scientiarum chimicarum doctor habilitatus, in facultate chimiae professor, hoc tempore decanus spectabilis. Christophorus Woźniak, scientiarum chimicarum doctor habilitatus, in facultate chimiae professor, promotor rite constitutus. Senatus Universitatis Varsoviensis auctoritatem. Die 24 mensis Iuni anno bis millesimo vicesimo. In virium clarissimum Jacintum Klinowski, scientiarum chimicarum doctorem, scientiarum chimicarum professorum egregium, Universitatis Cantabrigensis illustrissimum professorum emeritium, Universitatis Jagiellonice Krakowiensis professorem honorarium, excellentem virum doctum dissolitorum scientia promovenda et de proprietatibus zoolitorum cognoscendis optime meritum, qui in varis studiorum universitatibus scholas habebab, qui Polonis viris doctis sociam operam navabab, qui multos juvenes studiosos erudiebat et educabat, qui Polonos viros doctos et juvenes in Britannia studiorum promovendorum causa comorantes fovebat eiusque et sustentabat, qui Polonorum rebus et negotiis iubicunque potuit consulebab, qui varis insignibus decoris ornatus est. Doctoris honoris causa scientiarum chimicarum. Nomen et honores iura et privilegia contulimus. In eiusque rei fidem perpetuamque memoriam hoc diploma sigillo Universitatis Varsoviensis sanciendum curavimus. Datum Varsovii die octava mensis de decembris anno bis millesimo vicesimo primo. Hoc tempore rector magnificus Aloysius Novak, hoc tempore decanus spectabilis Andreas Kudelski, promotor rite constitutus Christophorus Woźniak.
Bardzo proszę Państwa o powstanie.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise.
Nihil impedit quominus honores Universitatis Varsoviensis. Tibi impertiamus. Ergo ego te doctorem honoris causa creocratum renuncio. Omnique doctoris honoris causa iura ac privilegia in te confero. In eiusque rei fidem hoc diploma Universitatis sigillo insignitum tibi manus trado. Bardzo dziękuję. Proszę Państwa o
Thank you so
zajęcie
much.
miejsc.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Zanim
please take your
poproszę pana
seats.
profesora o wygłoszenie kilku
Before I
słów
give the floor to Professor Jacek Klinowski,
panu dziekanowi,
I just would like to
Senatu.
comment
Panie dziekanie, ja
on
w
the
imieniu
previous
Senatu
speech.
i całej społeczności
Professor,
Uniwersytetu
I would like to thank
dziękuję
you
Wydziałowi Chemii za przedstawienie
and the whole Department of
tytułu
Chemistry
doktora honoris causa tak znakomitej
on
postaci. Uniwersytet i Senat
giving a
to
speech
dumnie
on the honoris causa
umożliwić ten
title.
honor panu
It is our great
profesorowi
privilege to
Klinowskiemu.
be actually
Bardzo
awarding the
dziękuję
title
panu i
to
całemu
such an
wydziałowi.
extinguished
Bardzo
researcher.
proszę, panie profesorze,
Professor,
jeśli pan
the
zechciałby
floor is yours.
zabrać głos i powiedzieć parę słów.
Magnificencie rektorze,
Dear Rector,
panie profesorze poprzedni rektorze, panie dziekanie,
dear ex-rectors,
państwo
dear
profesorowie
deans, professors
Uniwersytetu Warszawskiego,
of the University of Warsaw,
państwo profesorowie z innych uczelni,
dear professors of other
Szanowni
universities,
państwo,
ladies and
drodzy
gentlemen,
przyjaciele.
dear friends,
Doktorat honoris causa z
the honoris
Uniwersytetu
causa
Warszawskiego
title
jest dla mnie
awarded by the
ogromnym
University of
wyróżnieniem.
Warsaw
Wiem,
is an
że
enormous
Uniwersytet
achievement to
Warszawski
me.
jest bardzo skąpy w udzielaniu
I
tego
know that
tytułu.
it is quite rare for the University of
również,
Warsaw to
że
award honoris
ostatnią
causa
osobą
titles.
z nauk ścisłych, która
And I
w
know
Warszawie
that
dostała ten tytuł,
Formerly,
Sir Roger Penrose,
Sir Roger
A to
Penrose
jest
was awarded
jeden z
this
największych
title.
żyjących uczonych angielskich. a
Sir Roger
ich
Penrose
nie-
is actually one of the
Dlaczego o tym
greatest
mówię?
researchers of
Dlatego,
our
żeby
times,
uświadomić
if not the
państwu,
greatest
jak
one.
trudno będzie mi znaleźć sobie miejsce.
And therefore,
w tym
I just
szeregu
would like to say
znakomitych
that it will be
postaci.
particularly challenging for me to
Moja drużyna
meet the
dzisiaj
expectations
w
of
Warszawie
joining
jest bardzo
such
poważnie
prominent
uszczuplona.
researchers.
COVID nie był dla nas łaskawy.
Ladies and gentlemen, COVID
Delegacja
was
Chin nie
quite
mogła
detrimental
przybyć,
to
ponieważ
us.
wprowadzono tam
and
3
therefore
tygodniową
my party
kwarantannę.
is
Ci
quite
ludzie
small.
są dyrektorami instytutów, więc nie
Lastly,
mogą
we've had a
sobie
3-week
pozwolić na 3
quarantine,
tygodnie wakacji.
and therefore,
Poza tym jutro, w czwartek, o północy
quarantine
jest
introduced,
termin
and therefore the
zgłaszania
party
podania
had to
grantu
be
europejskiej.
smaller than
I moi
expected.
oczywiście
And apart from
byliśmy
this, tomorrow at midnight,
bardzo nad tym
there is a
dzisiaj
deadline
pracują.
for applying for European grants, and therefore
Mimo
my
wszystko,
colleagues are currently working on these
są
applications.
osoby,
That's why
którym
they are
udało
not
się
here.
dotrzeć do Warszawy. Między
Fortunately, I am happily
innymi
accompanied
jest profesor Nebuman z Nowego Jorku, który na jeden dzień
with Professor Nebuman from New York
oraz mój przyjaciel
and my friend
Andrew Patterson,
Andrew
który
Patterson,
przyjechał z Anglii.
who joined us here, coming from England.
Chciałem Państwu powiedzieć
Ladies
o
and
moich
gentlemen,
związkach z Uniwersytetem Warszawskim,
I would like to comment
które sięgają XIX wieku.
on the University of
sam
Warsaw
niestety nie
and me.
sięgam
We actually have a shared
z
history
XIX wieku, ale moje związki sięgają.
starting from the 19th
Przenieśmy się
century
myślą do roku 1899,
Let's go back to
kiedy Bolesław Pękala,
1899,
mój dziadek ze
when
strony
Bolesław
matki,
Pękala,
zaczyna studia
my
medyczne
grandfather,
na Uniwersytecie Warszawskim,
started
który był
his education at the University of Warsaw.
W roku 1905, kiedy
In
dziadek
1905,
ukończył 6 lat studiów, były
having
w Warszawie
graduated
zamieszki, mini rewolucja.
from studies,
I jako
there was a
represję,
mini revolution here in
Tsar
Warsaw. He
zamknął
witnessed the revolution here in
Uniwersytet
Warsaw, and Tsar
Dziadek
actually
był w trudnej
closed the
sytuacji,
University of
skończył 6
Warsaw.
lat
My grandfather
medycyny, przecież nie był
was in a
lekarzem.
peculiar position
Więc
back then.
wybrał
He
się
wanted to
do
be a
Dorpatu,
doctor,
co teraz się nazywa Tartu w Estonii.
and
Dawniej to było
he parted
oczywiście
to
Cesarstwo
Tartu in
Rosyjskie,
Estonia,
gdzie dokończył
former
studia, wrócił
Russian
do Polski
Empire.
i został przez następne 50 lat
For the
jedynym
next,
lekarzem
for the
w
following
małej
50
podkarpackiej
years,
miejscowości.
he worked as a
To był
doctor.
subtelny człowiek. Potrafił mówić
He was a
po
modest man and
rosyjsku
a
i po
sophisticated
francusku
one at the
bez
same
akcentu,
time,
co
speaking
podobno dla
Russian
Polaka jest
and
bardzo trudne
French
do osiągnięcia.
without a foreign accent, which is quite difficult for a
Drugi
Pole.
mój związek z Uniwersytetem
The
Warszawskim
second
nastąpił w
liaison
latach
with the
50.,
University of
kiedy jako
Warsaw was
12-letnie
actually
dziecko
in the
znalazłem się
50s, in 1950s.
przez 12 kolejnych dni w dziwnych okolicznościach
I
w
was a child back
towarzystwie
then.
Wacława Sierpińskiego,
and I met Wacław Szczepiński, a great mathematician of the University of Warsaw and of the world stage.
Fascynujące.
This was a fascinating
Wytłumaczył mi
experience.
oczywiście najpierw wszystkie problemy matematyczne,
First, he
które ma
explained all mathematical
12-letnie dziecko, ale
problems to
potem
me.
mi
I was 12 back
opowiedział
then, by the way.
o 11 własnościach kuli,
And later on, he told me
o tym,
a couple of words
co to
about the
jest
11
uszczelka
characteristics
sierpińskiego.
of a
Ta
sphere.
rozmowa miała wielki wpływ na moje życie.
This exerted a huge influence on my life.
Później, dalsze 35, powiedzmy
The
35
following
lat później,
35 years
rozpocząłem współpracę z członkami Uniwersytetu
were also
Warszawskiego.
quite
To się
remarkable.
zaczęło od
After 35 years, I started cooperating with the University of Warsaw,
profesorem Krygowskim, profesorem Woźniakiem,
with Professor Klinowski, Professor
promotorem,
Woźniak,
wspaniałym uczonym profesorem Kołodziejskim,
Professor
obecnie
Kołodziejski.
na Uniwersytecie Medycznym w Warszawie.
currently at the Warsaw University of
I
Medical
kontakt z
Sciences
profesorem
here in
Pirą
Warsaw,
i jego wspaniałą książką.
as well as Professor Piro and his, which actually
Jeśli, jak
translated
Państwo się
into great
zorientowali,
cooperation. I also would like to mention his
z
book.
poprzednich przemówień, jestem
As you know,
emigrantem, który całe
emigrated
właściwie dorosłe życie spędził poza granicami
to Great Britain.
kraju swego urodzenia.
And in fact, all my adult life are
Jestem
spent
w bardzo rzadkiej sytuacji,
abroad.
mianowicie mogę
At the same time,
bez
my
przeszkód
situation is quite
powiedzieć słowo
specific.
stosowne. Proszę mi wybaczyć.
Well, I think
Po
that I can speak
wyjeździe z
plainly,
Polski
please forgive me.
zacząłem pracę w Szkocji, jak Państwo słyszeli.
First,
nad
after
zupełnie innym
emigration,
tematem.
I started working in
I tak się
Scotland.
złożyło, przedziwnie złożyło,
And it
że
happened,
wszyscy
actually.
uczeni, z którymi pracowałem, mieli jakiś związek z
It
Cambridge.
turned out that everyone I cooperated with was
Profesor
in
Mies, z
some
którym pracowałem
way related to
najpierw, był
Poland,
z Queen's College, Cambridge, a następnie
including
zostałem,
researchers from Queen's College, Cambridge.
Zacząłem pracować z profesorem Barrem, wielkim uczonym w Londynie,
I also
twórcą
started working with
zupełnie
Professor,
nowej dziedziny.
Professor Barron.
To był Nowozelandczyk, który do końca życia
Professor
był
Richard
obywatelem
Barra
Nowej
was a
Zelandii.
great researcher
I
at the same time.
to jest człowiek, który mi nauczył, jak się pisze, pisze
A
pracę
man
naukową.
who
Był
taught
człowiekiem
me
trudnym,
how to
ale wiele
write academic
od niego się
papers.
nauczyłem. On oczywiście
I
pochodził
really learned a lot from
z Clare College, Cambridge,
Professor.
i jego droga naukowa była
He
Cambridge,
worked
Aberdeen,
also in College,
Londyn, a moja
Cambridge.
była odwrotna.
He originated
Czyli
in
szedłem
Aberdeen. He
jego
first started in
śladami,
Aberdeen
no
and then
przeciwnym
went to
kierunku.
Cambridge, while I did so vice versa. The other way round, sorry.
W roku 1979
In 1979,
zostałem zaproszony do pracy
I was invited to collaborate
przez
with researchers
profesora
from
Thomasa,
Cambridge.
który akurat
I was invited by
obrał
Professor
kierownictwo
Thomas.
zakładu. Sir John Merrick Thomas.
Sir John Merrick Thomas.
Zapytałem go, na jak długo ofiaruje mi posadę, a on powiedział,
I asked
na
him
zawsze.
how long
Chociaż sobie
I would be
potem tego nie
working
przypominam.
at Cambridge.
Ale ja
He
sobie
said,
doskonale
well,
przypominam.
that's for a long run.
No więc ładnie. Zacząłem pracować nad
So
ciekawym dość tematem.
I started working
Ale
on something quite
Niedługo
captivating.
nastąpił absolutny przełom w mojej działalności i
But
muszę
later
Państwu
on,
o tym powiedzieć. Mamy
There were changes in my
8
life.
stycznia 1981, czwartek.
Let's go back to the 8th of January, Thursday,
który mówi,
1981.
niesie w ręku
I
wyblakłą
met Professor
fotokopię
Tomak
wystąpienia na
in the hall.
internacjonalnej konferencji
He had an old paper
w NRD.
with him coming
To
from
była
the
praca,
German
która była
Federation.
częściowo startu w Estonii, czyli
This was a
Uniwersytetu
paper
mojego dziadka.
That was
I
written by
z Berlina
researchers
Wschodniego,
both
dawnego,
from the
dawnego.
East Berlin
I
and from
mówi,
Tartu in
bardzo
Estonia.
ciekawy eksperyment.
The paper
A, i
revolved
rzeczywiście, bardzo ciekawy
around a very
eksperyment.
interesting
A on
experiment.
wtedy mówi,
I agreed with
ciekawe,
him.
czy Colin to potrafi zrobić.
And he said,
Colin to
well,
jest
it's quite
Professor
interesting. Perhaps
Five
Colin can replicate it.
No więc zadzwońmy do niego. Była
Colin
druga
was our
popołudnie,
colleague.
można
We
było
called him.
zadzwonić do Kanady, prawda, w czasie dnia pracy.
To
W
Canada.
rezultacie tej rozmowy okazało
And as
się,
a
że
result,
Colin potrafi.
it turned out that Colin
No i
indeed can
6
replicate
godzin
the
później
experiment.
był
6
w
hours
samolocie
later,
lecącym do Toronto.
I was flying to Toronto
I mając ze sobą kilkadziesiąt próbek.
together with several dozens of
Następnego dnia byłem
samples.
na Uniwersytecie Guelph
The following day,
Kanadzie,
I joined him at his university in Canada,
wodospadem Niagara.
at quite nearby Niagara
2
Falls.
metry śniegu,
Well,
minus
that
41
was
stopni
horrendous.
temperatury,
2
czyli
meters
50
of
stopni
snow.
niżej niż w Londynie.
And in fact, a
No, ale
temperature
poradziliśmy.
50 degrees below the one
Ruszyliśmy do
I
pracy,
had in London. But, well, we
dzień i noc.
managed to
Zaraz
start
powiem państwu,
working. We
na czym
worked
ten
day and
eksperyment
night,
polegał.
and I will delve into the
Chodziło o
details quite
rezonans
soon.
magnetyczny.
This was all about a magnetic
Ideę
resonance.
rezonansu magnetycznego potrafię streścić jednym zdaniem.
Well, it's quite simple, in
Niektóre
fact.
Atomy,
Some atoms,
niektóre jądra atomowe
some atom nuclei,
pochłaniają
to
fale
be
radiowe, kiedy je
precise,
umieścić w
can
polu
absorb
magnetycznym.
radiation.
A długość pochłoniętej fali
And the
zależy
width
od,
of this
o
absorption
jaki pierwiastek chodzi i od jego sytuacji w cząsteczce.
depends on the
jest
atomic
koniec.
position within
Reszta
the
to są
molecule,
detale.
on the nucleus position within the
Ale
molecule.
myśmy się mieli zajmować
This is all.
rezonansem magnetycznym
But we
w
had
ciele
to work on
stałym,
magnetic
a to
resonance
jest
in
nasza
solids.
szkoła jazdy.
And this is something
Dlatego, bo w
way
ciele
more
stałym
challenging to do.
Nie tak
Why
jak
is
w
that?
roztworze, nie ma bezładnego ruchu
In solids,
cząsteczek.
the molecules
I
cannot
żeby
move
go
freely.
stymulować,
And in order to
trzeba
stimulate the
wirować
molecule
krótko,
movement,
z szaloną
you have
szybkością,
to put the
przynajmniej
sample in
5-10
motion
tysięcy razy na
at
sekundę,
least
nie na
5-10
minutę. Na
times
sekundę.
per second
Pod
You have
pewnym
to
kątem,
rotate
kątem
it
magicznym do
at
kierunku
an
pola
angle called the
magnetycznego.
magical angle,
Okazuje się, że to
5
jest
to
łatwo
10
zrobić.
thousand times per
No
second.
i tak robiliśmy.
Was it possible to be
No
done?
i,
Yes, it was.
e,
We managed to
stały
do
się
that,
nadzwyczajne
and we
rzeczy.
succeeded.
Dlatego, bo to było tak jak po odkryciu
This was an
mikroskopu.
outstanding
Pojawia się nowa
experience.
warstwa rzeczywistości.
This was brought, and
Mam
this,
tutaj napisane, co
by this I mean our
powiedział,
experiments were brought to a whole new level.
odkrywca mikroskopu Van Hovenhek w roku Arthur van Hovenhek w
Arthur
roku
van Hovenhek
1675.
in
Cokolwiek włożę pod mikroskop jest
said
równie ciekawe.
these words.
Jeśli włożę
Anything that I
kroplę
put
zestawu,
under
to
the
widzę
microscope
prymitywne formuły.
lens is
A jeśli
interesting.
włożę przez pomyłkę swój krawat,
Sometimes
to widzę rzecz równie
I
interesującą,
put
strukturę
samples in there and I can see life. And sometimes I can put my tie into the
I
microscopic
to była
lens,
taka sama
under the
sytuacja.
microscopic lens.
Po
And I will
angielsku
also
jest
see something
specjalne
quite
wyrażenie na opisanie
interesting.
tego. Halcyon days. Cudowne dni.
In England,
No i tak
we
właśnie
say
było.
halcyon days,
pewien czas
wonderful days,
Produkowaliśmy...
referring to those days
eksperymenty były
when we
szybkie,
create something wonderful.
fascynujące, wyniki fascynujące,
We
natychmiast
had
publikowane,
fascinating results. We
natychmiast
published
cytowane.
immediately after
No
the
i
studies,
rezultaty oczywiście były
and we were quite
również
successful in the
natychmiastowe.
publications. We had
W następnym roku
great results.
mieliśmy
The following year,
na liście 100 najbardziej cytowanych
we were
nazw w
named
nauce mieliśmy 4.
among the 100 most cited researchers in the world.
W ważnych laboratoriach na całym świecie znałem wszystkich, byłem
I knew everyone in
zaproszony na
labs all around the
konferencje
world,
i
and
tak
I was
dalej.
quite successful back then.
Ta sytuacja przecież nie może trwać w nieskończoność. Najłatwiejsze
But I also
eksperymenty
thought that
zostaną
this cannot be continued
przeprowadzone
endlessly.
na samym początku. No więc zajęliśmy się
Therefore,
właściwie wszystkim, co było pod ręką.
we continued with everything we've had in
Widzieliśmy,
mind.
Najpierw
We moved
rzeczy
on to
zawierające
other
krem.
experiments. First of all, we delved
więcej
into
niż
silicates.
połowa wszystkich minerałów zawierają krzem. Kamyczek przywieziony z Księżyca.
In fact,
szkło z okna.
everything
albo szkło z
includes
kaplicy,
silicon.
Szkło, które ma 700 lat. z
Glass,
kaplicy.
moon
I tak dalej,
rocks,
i tak dalej. Cement,
fossils, cement.
Wszystkie możliwe minerały.
Almost half of
To
the
są bardzo
minerals
dziwne minerały.
include silicon.
Jest minerał, który zawiera jednocześnie 9
For
pierwiastków.
instance, there is a mineral that includes 9 different
No więc nie
molecules
będę
in that.
powtarzał tego, o czym bardzo, nawet za bardzo łaskawie mówił pan profesor promotor.
As Professor
Skomentuję
Woźniak
tylko pewne rzeczy.
said, there were very
Więc,
interesting things going on, and I would like to comment on
Z
that now.
najważniejszych prac w tym okresie było, jak pan profesor wspomniał,
As Professor said,
bezpośrednią obserwację syntezy w środku
we embarked on a study
kapsułki
on
wewnątrz rotora.
on observing the synthesis
Do benzyny. Okazuje się, że
of substances related to methanol that was later on used in gas.
potrafi w jednym skoku
One of its most important
metanolu.
substance
Alkohole nie są
can
jako chemikalium
turn
wartościowe.
from methanol
1 metr sześcienny
into another
alkoholu
substance.
etylowego
1
jako
cubic meter of
chemikalium
ethanol
jest warte
alcohol, of
jakieś
ethyl
$200.
alcohol,
Ale
is
akcyza
worth
żarowa
about
jest
$1,200. Whereas when turned into
Ale
gas,
jako paliwo
this
to
same
jest tanie paliwo, tylko że jest
value
ciężkie,
reaches the
ponieważ
level of
zawiera tlen,
$3,000
a benzyna
US
nie
dollars.
zawiera tlenu. Więc ta reakcja może
At
zbawić
the same
potencjalnie takie kraje jak Nowa Zelandia,
Some of the reactions
nie
that
mają
we observed
dostępu do
were
ropy.
documented in publications and could be potentially
Badaliśmy
used
różne rzeczy,
in
badaliśmy
solving
potem
problems,
rzeczy
for instance,
zawierające
in
węgiel,
countries which
no
have to
i
be based on
badaliśmy,
alternative
jak pan
gas
Dziekan
options such as
łaskawie
New Zealand.
był
As I've
wyróżnić.
said, we embarked on different
Badaliśmy,
topics.
tlenek grafitu. Ja
We
nawet
studied
nie wiedziałem, co to
graphite
jest.
oxide, for instance. Back
Ale
then, I
profesor
didn't
Lew,
know
który
what graphite
przyjechał
oxide
do mnie
is,
z wizytą,
whereas
mi
Professor
powiedział, to
Lew,
jest substancja
who
odkryta
visited me,
ponad 150
told me
lat
that
temu.
graphite
I właściwie
oxide
nikt nie wie, co to jest.
was actually
Rozbadaliśmy tą
discovered
sprawę. Okazało się, że to jest
150 years earlier.
prekursor grafenu.
In fact,
Chociaż
graphite oxide
słowo
was
grafen
observed
jeszcze było
to be the
nie
graphene
wynalezione
precursor,
wtedy, prawda? Niestety
even though
nie
graphene was
wpadliśmy na
not
tą
known
sztuczkę
back then.
z taśmą z lepcem, która Andrzej Gajmowi przyniosła nagrodę
Unfortunately, we did
Otrzymał
not
przez
invent
użycie
or
lepca
discover
jedną
graphene,
warstwę grafitu,
which meaning the
warstwę grafitu.
experiment brought a Nobel Prize to
W
its
każdym
authors.
razie nie chcę wyolbrzymiać absolutnie, broń Boże, swoich
I do not want to
osiągnięć.
exaggerate my achievements, not at all, regarding the magnetic resonance.
Żadnych osiągnięć
I can say I have no achievements when it comes to improving the method itself. I can say I'm simply a user of methods that were discovered by others.
Dobrze się orientuję, dość dobrze się orientuję.
I have fairly good knowledge when it comes to magnetic resonance, but the only thing that I have contributed is the book that I co-authored with Professor Henel, who actually built the first type of apparatus for magnetic resonance in Poland. He was my friend and a mentor in the 1950s. That's when he built the apparatus. Our book targets doctors, radiologists who perform a radiation procedure with the use of magnetic resonance and without knowing what they are doing, because it is not entirely clear why, when I put a person in the magnetic field and I put radiation wave through the person, why we receive this image? Why it's different from using the X-ray. We all understand what happens with X-raying. For example, why we can see the fingers of a person when we perform an X-ray procedure, but we don't know that much about the magnetic resonance. In 1990, I suddenly remembered that I actually used to study mathematics, but I have no achievements in this field whatsoever. That's why, with the help of two very talented people, I decided to work on mathematics, applied mathematics, and pure mathematics. Actually, it did quite a lot of damage. Actually, my colleagues do not read works on mathematics. It's not something that counts for them. But fortunately, the authorities of the university do read. And I was awarded for that. However, my colleagues could not skip the works devoted to the absolute minimum and to the calculation of structures, especially as those works were published in Nature. They were featured on the cover of the Nature magazine. That's all about my work, but
o Uniwersytecie w Cambridge.
I would like to tell you a few words about the Cambridge University. I don't want to talk about how great it is. I want to tell you how odd it
Wiem,
is.
że jesteśmy w Warszawie,
I know that we are in Warsaw
ale
right
ja
now,
tam spędziłem 39 lat.
but I did spend 39 years at the University of Cambridge, so I have to talk about it a bit.
Może weźmiemy i zobaczymy na pierwsze przejście.
Let's have a look at the first slide. This is an eagle's eye view of our university. The green areas are courtyards of the college. This is the Trinity College. Isaac Newton used to work in those rooms. I was not at home when he was working there. This is Trinity College. This is actually our strongest institution regarding finances and scientific achievements. So its members like to speak, not being very humble. They like to say that actually there are more Nobel laureates sitting at a table together at our university than in the whole France. This college is really wealthy, but where did the money come from? This is related to the tradition of bequeathing as much money as possible to the university by its students. So that's why this institution was able to accumulate large funds, and of course it is also managed by people who are also members of the college. We can see that those the oldest of the colleges are really wealthy. So the way it works is that a student doesn't enter a university as such, but they enter particular colleges. But it is not possible for each college to teach all subjects, so we can't have all of those labs, such as they can't have both a telescope and a chemical lab and everything else. That's why we also have university buildings, which are really not that visible on the map compared to the college buildings. We can say that the whole city is one big campus. If we remove those buildings from the image, not much would be left. So the application process is twofold. So one is entering the university and then into the college. So there's also a system of support for students in particular colleges. A student studies for 4 years. Then they receive the title of Bachelor of Arts. Next, it is enough to simply wait 3 more years, do nothing bad, behave well, and do nothing, no additional work to achieve the title, to obtain the title of Masters of Arts. Not Master of Science, but Master of Arts. Why is it important? It's because it enables one to vote on all matters related to the university, as the university is fully independent of the government. It also enables one to become a teacher at the university. However, this system, the system I'm talking about, exists only at Cambridge and in another famous English university whose name starts with the letter O, and the Dublin College. So someone with a title of Master of Arts received from one of those universities is able to teach at all of them. But it wasn't the case for me. And for actually for 5 guineas, which was 28 zlotys, I received the title of Master of Arts. It was a very nice system, I have to say, and that enabled me to teach there.
Jeszcze są różne inne osobliwości na naszym uniwersytecie.
There are
Na przykład
many other
wszyscy
peculiar
uważają,
characteristics
że
of our
nie
university.
ma u nas habilitacji.
Many people say that it is not possible to receive habilitation at our university. It is not quite true, but of course it does not exist in the sense that it does in Poland, but there is a so-called higher doctorate. These are robes awarded to a person with a higher doctorate. It doesn't actually help and it is not required for anything. And habilitation in Poland is recognized similarly to Germany. So it does exist at our university, but it does not help in any way.
Dlaczego ja mam tą togę w takim
So why do I have this robe?
Dlatego, bo ponieważ nie jestem doktorem filozofii.
Have it because as I'm not a doctor of philosophy at Cambridge,
czarnej togi
I was not able to wear the
ale mogę, ponieważ
black
mam
robe
wyższy
with the red
doktorat, nosić
stripes,
szkarła.
but I can wear this one
Zwykła
because I have the higher doctorate. So it is simply about vanity.
Jeszcze mamy inne osobliwe rzeczy.
There are many other
Mianowicie
odd
tak zwane
features.
pensum akademickie.
There's the so-called academic
Wszędzie
pensum,
jest minimalna ilość godzin, którą musi
academic teaching load.
nauczyciel akademicki nauczać.
So this is related to the number of hours that a teacher has to teach, and of course we can't do it the same way that others do. So we have a maximum number of hours, which means that a professor may not teach more than 5 hours a week because they should actually spend time thinking and doing scientific work.
Dobrze. Chciałem od razu powiedzieć, jeszcze jest najdziwniejsza
One more
rzecz,
thing. Actually, this is the strangest thing.
zostać profesorem chemii.
In Cambridge, it's not possible to become a professor of chemistry. You simply become a professor,
Sobie w ciągu 2 tygodni.
and then you choose the title within
Moi
2
koledzy
following
mają
weeks.
dobrze w głowie i
Of course,
wybierają sobie
my colleagues,
ze
being
swojej własnej dziedziny.
smart, choose a title from their own field, but actually they don't have to.
A dlaczego tak jest?
Why is it so?
Że kiedy uniwersytet był formowany,
This is because the fact that at the beginning, when the university was established, it was customary for an educated person to have all the knowledge necessary. So they knew everything that was available in terms of medical science, chemical science. The amount of knowledge was not huge.
sytuacja oczywiście się
Now the situation is very different.
kompletnie. W ciągu ostatnich 100 lat
In the last 100 years,
nauki ścisłe wykonały
science and
większe
life
postępy niż
sciences
w poprzednich 100
have made a
tysiącach
great
lat.
progress, much greater than in the previous
Nauka się
1,000 years.
rozformowała, stała się bardzo,
Science became fragmented and it became very complicated.
a jednocześnie nastały trudne czasy.
At the same time, difficult
Świat stoi
times
przed
came.
kilkoma poważnymi zagrożeniami.
The world is
Nie
facing
chodzi mi o
some
COVID,
serious
z którym sobie
dangers.
poradzimy.
This is not just about the COVID. This is something we can deal with. Maybe not right away.
Może
It
w
might take a
końcu
few years.
trzeba będzie po prostu brać szczepionkę,
It is
to-
possible that
zresztą nie jestem specjalistą,
annual
nie wiem.
vaccination will become necessary, but I'm not a specialist in this field.
Ale zaraz
But
powiem,
we do
jakie.
have other threats, which I'm going to talk about to you in a minute.
Kryzys energetyczny,
First of all, the energy crisis
no i globalne
and
ocieplenie.
global warming.
Mówi się, spalaj mniej węgla, jedz
We hear
mniej
that we should
mięsa i
burn
tak
less
dalej,
coal, we
i tak
should
dalej.
eat
Ale
less
jakoś
meat.
nie wspomina o tym, że to nauka, tak jak z COVID-em.
But no one ever says that it is actually science that is helping, that is trying to help. Same like in the case of the COVID-19 pandemic. It will be the same for the energy sector. It is enough to solve one problem,
Syntezy jądrowej.
the problem of nuclear synthesis, the reaction happening on the
Nie
sun.
produkuje żadnych promieniotwórczych izotopów.
This reaction does not produce any radioactive isotopes.
Laboratorium dość trudne do osiągnięcia, prawda?
Yes, we have to work on that, and it is a difficult task. But I am convinced that in the next few years we will solve this problem. And in this way we will be able to solve all the other problems, because the political situation will change. The Middle East will no longer be interesting.
The
Siberian gas will not be that important anymore. We will be able to produce electricity from hydrogen in unlimited amounts. The other problem that we are facing at the moment is the storage of electricity. It is said that in 5 years, all the cars in the UK will be electric. But I have a very simple question. Where are we going to get the electricity from? No one can answer that. One option is the wind farms that are being built all over the Western Europe. A windmill rotates all day, and actually the electricity that is accumulated within the night, during the night, is wasted. And we don't know what to do with this electricity, with this power. At the same time, the car I took to get here has a battery that is based on the lead and type of acid that was actually invented 20 years ago. It's based on sulfur acid. And it is actually a scandal. Why haven't we invented something better? Well, we couldn't, because there weren't enough intelligent people dealing with the problem. But if there are such people, there will be a solution. The third issue I would like to talk about, the third problem that we need to deal with, is photosynthesis. This reaction takes place even in the smallest of plants. Of course, you could say that I skipped the most important scientific problems. For example, where is the 80% of the mass of the universe? We don't know where this is. But yes, it is an important issue, but it is less vital than the problems I told you about. We can wait with the solution. To sum up, what good things can we say? First, I want to tell you some bad things that could be mentioned. Our university is dozens of years, decades ahead of the Cambridge University when it comes to the treatment of women. 1948 was the first year when a woman was able to achieve a scientific title at our university. So,
there are some women awarded PhDs without an MA degree, because they couldn't have done so. They were not awarded an academic title. At the same time, they could work, for instance, as doctors, but without the title itself. Everything changed, similarly to what, for instance, suffragettes' landscape looked like.
Dobrze, ale teraz są
Fair
dobre wiadomości.
Now come the good news.
Są dobre warunki do pracy.
We have good working conditions right now.
Studenci są cudowni.
Students are
Bo to są
marvelous
najlepsi z najlepszych, a jeden
because
z nich
they actually constitute creme de la creme of students, and we have one of the students sitting right in front of me.
Ma kontakt z najlepszymi naukowcami możliwymi.
I also have contact with the best researchers of the world. You actually don't have to go anywhere to meet someone special. It's enough for me to put on this robe to go for a dinner at my college and just to listen quietly about extraordinary, sensational experiments. And not only experiments, because we have writers, musicians, captains of submarines, etc., etc. This is all very captivating. Well, ladies and gentlemen,
Ale na zakończenie
This would be
chciałbym
all, but not
podziękować
last,
dwóm paniom
but not least, I would like to express my gratitude
mianowicie
First of all,
Marii Klinowskiej, mojej żonie,
to Margaret
która-
Klinowski, my wife.
Ja zapomniałem powiedzieć, że najważniejsze rzeczy, że ja pojechałem
forgot
do
one thing.
Cambridge w ślad mojej żony, a
I
nie
went to Cambridge
odwrotnie.
to join my
Bo
wife,
kiedy
not
tam
vice versa.
dostałem posadę, ona już od 6 lat
She
pracowała
had
wykładając
worked for,
anatomię ludzką
had been working for 6
dla
years
lekarzy, a pracując nad ssakami morskimi takimi jak
as a medical
wieloryby i
researcher
delfiny. No i drugą panią doktor jest
at
Teresa
Cambridge,
Klinowska, która
studying
jest i tutaj obecna,
mammals,
mogła przyjechać dzięki
including marine mammals.
zachęcie i tolerancji tych obu pań mogłem stanąć dzisiaj przed państwem. Dziękuję bardzo.
There is another Mrs. Klinowska with us today. Unfortunately, she could have joined us, and it is our great pleasure, my great pleasure, to be able to thank her once again. Both of these ladies are very special to me, and I would like to express my gratitude to them. Thank you very much.
Powtórzę doktorowi.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you so much for this wonderful
Budzący do refleksji wykład.
lecture.
Jesteśmy dumni, że pan
for offering
profesor wygłosił taki piękny
some food
wykład.
for
I
thought.
powiem rzecz jeszcze jedną. Obserwowałem salę, jeśli mogę sobie pozwolić.
I
Nikt nie
looked
wyszedł, a jeden wszedł.
As at our audience, there was no one leaving the room, and in fact, there was one person joining us in the middle of the lecture.
Pana profesora.
of the
Poproszę
speech.
państwa o powstanie.
Ladies and gentlemen, please
Śpiewanie.
rise again.
Gaudeamus. Pięknie za tą wspaniałą
so
oprawę
much
tej znakomitej
for
dzisiejszej
this
uroczystości.
wonderful
Bardzo
musical
dziękuję.
accent of today's ceremony.
Dziękuję bardzo. Proszę państwa jeszcze
Thank
o
you.
zajęcie na jedną
Once
minutę
again,
miejsc.
ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats
Panie
for another
profesorze,
minute.
raz jeszcze
Professor,
serdecznie
once
proszę
again,
usiąść. Gratuluję.
I would like to
Jesteśmy
congratulate you.
dumni, że pan
We
profesor
are
jest z
proud
nami. Witamy już
to be having you
oficjalnie
here
wśród społeczności akademickiej
and to have you
Uniwersytetu
as a member
Warszawskiego.
of the
To zawsze
community of the
wiedzieliśmy,
University
że
of
pan był
Warsaw.
częścią nas, ale
We've
teraz już
always
jest,
thought of you as
wymaga na to
a member of our
postaci
community.
przyznanego dyplomu,
However,
że pan jest
this title
częścią. Wierzymy,
officially
że pan
enables
profesor
us
nas będzie
to recognize
częściej
you
odwiedzał
as
niż
this member.
dotychczas, że sytuacja się zmieni.
We hope that
W kuluarach
we
będę miał
will
pewną
be
propozycję dla pana profesora, którą
hosting you
przedstawię. Nie
many,
będzie to zła
much more
propozycja.
frequently, and we can
Dziękuję
continue
państwu
this
wszystkim i
discussion,
każdemu z osobna za
later on.
uczestnictwo w dzisiejszej uroczystości. To dla
Thank you so much,
Uniwersytetu
ladies and
wielka
gentlemen,
sprawa
for joining us
i
here
cieszę
today
się, że
during
państwo
this
byliście z nami
outstanding
i
ceremony.
że mam ogromną nadzieję,
This is a special
wrócicie
moment for the
do
University
siebie
of
na
Warsaw,
uniwersytety, do
and
domów
I hope that you'll be back
z
at your
dobrymi
universities and
wrażeniami i
back
z pełnym
to your
szacunkiem i
homes
podziwem dla naszego
with
doktora honorowego.
full heart and
Kończąc,
with respect for our
Ja
honorary
serdecznie państwa zapraszam wszystkich
member of
do
the
kuluarów
community of the University of Warsaw. And
tej
now, ladies
z
and
jednej
gentlemen,
strony w
please
celu
join me
złożenia życzeń, panu profesorowi, a z drugiej strony
outside this
mamy
room when
przygotowany
we'll have
tam
face-to-face
pewien mały
discussions and we'll be
poczęstunek. Bardzo Państwu dziękuję i
we will
serdecznie
have the
zapraszam
occasion to
i
congratulate
oficjalnie
Professor.
zamykam
Ladies and
dzisiejszą
gentlemen, I now
uroczystość.
declare
Dziękuję
the
bardzo.
ceremony closed. Thank you.